Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Somewhat Close to Everything We Need podcast. I'll be your host, Blousy B723, and this is my co-host, Buzz Lebqueer. Leb?
Hi, thanks for having me on.
So you might be wondering, why the fuck are these two idiots making a podcast? And that's a great question, and that's what we're going to try to tell you about. Leb, do you want to tell them about the audio logs?
Yeah, so one day we were bored, and we were both about to go to college, and my co-host here is going to college in California, across the coast, and I'm going to college in Delaware.
Across the coast?
Across
What does that even mean?
Across the country.
What would it across
From
the coast
coast
mean?
to coast.
That'd be like the north of the south coast?
Yeah, across the coast, I believe, would be, like, if you move downward.
So, like,
down
if
the
you're, like,
coast.
up in, like, Maine,
Yeah.
it'd be, like,
well,
to the
actually,
bottom of the coast.
I'm not sure what across the coast would be. Would that be, like, from us to England? Because it's across the... Well, that's
But
across the
that's not a
ocean.
coast, is it? A coast is just, like, the land next
It's not
to the
exactly
ocean.
a coast. But we should really figure this out for the next
Yeah.
podcast.
We'll let you guys know
well,
next
either
time.
way, he goes to school across the country and doesn't come home very often and has to take flights. So we decided, instead of worrying about the time zones, we could just make audio logs, pre-recorded, talk to ourselves for an hour, and then send them over. It's more like 10 minutes, but I had 1 hour long one. So
He
now
did
we
have an
decided
hour-long special.
We
It was
might as well
very
have
impressive.
a podcast because I can talk for hours on my own. We could probably talk together for hours.
My audio logs made it at most, like, 10 minutes, but, you know, now we have each other as a co-host, we should be able to get it done. So anyway, that's basically the backstory of the Somewhat Close to Everything We Need podcast. That's our official title.
It seems like we're missing a member or something.
Well, we're somewhat close.
We'll have to get into that
Yeah.
another day.
in a future episode. But so the first topic for today is going to be, we're going to speak on the upcoming political election, which, you know, it's slowly but surely coming up in next November. So Leb, do you have any specific candidate you're interested in backing?
I actually do. So earlier today, when we went to Five Guys, I was doing a little bit of research on my phone about this upcoming election, and I read all of the names of the potential candidates that will be in the election, and I personally am going to go for Fidel Castro.
Fidel Castro.
He was very popular a long time ago in Cuba, where he was having a communist regime, and we tried a Bay of Pigs invasion, and it completely failed. So he's clearly a good military leader. So I think he would be great for running our country.
See, now, before you go any further, you said Fidel Castro?
Yes, Fidel Castro.
Are you sure you're not referring to Harold Castro? The actual candidate for this upcoming election?
Okay, I might change my opinion. Why don't
Should I jump into my
why
candidate?
don't you share your candidate?
So I just want to say right now, I'm officially Yang Gang 2020 for this upcoming election. Andrew Yang is my candidate. Now you might be asking, why Andrew Yang? Well, there's a few reasons. Number one, he plans to give every single person in this country over the age of 18 $1,000 a month for free. This is a serious policy. I'm not
really?
kidding.
Oh my
this
God.
is his actual policy. I'm like, why the fuck? You're going to give me $12,000 a year for doing jack shit? I'm in. Andrew Yang. Number two, he's a business mind. So, like, a lot of people in the last election, they voted for Donald Trump because they didn't want, like, a politician, which is fair because most politicians are very corrupt. So I understand that thought process, but Donald Trump is also kind of like a douchebag. So it's like, do you really want that? But Andrew Yang is an entrepreneur. He's self-made, like Trump. Well, Trump's actually not self-made. It's his father's wealth. But Andrew Yang is actually self-made, and he has entrepreneurial ideas. He isn't a politician. That's the word I'm looking for. And, like, he actually got a lot of shit for it in one of the debates. Like, you know how you're supposed to wear a tie? Like, in, like, all formal debates.
Yeah.
He refused to wear a tie because it's, like, it's just for looks. He doesn't care about appearance. He cares about getting the job done.
Well, he sounds like a
And that's what I'm
laid-back,
about.
cool kid. I think I've changed my vote. I'm officially part of the Yang Gang 2020.
All right, there we go. So it seems like Yang Gang is the way to go. Do you have any other candidates you want to briefly speak on, or should we move on?
I was going to speak on Jill Stein, but it turns out she's not even in the election anymore.
Jill Stein really should have won the last
Actually,
election.
maybe
wouldn't you
she
say?
is. When I looked up the candidates, it was only Democrat, Republican.
Yeah, see, she's actually in the Green Party, I believe.
Yeah,
So,
she's pretty cool.
explain your rationale for Jill Stein.
She is a woman. You'd have the first woman president. She made a joke about Trump and Hillary during a debate, and I thought it was pretty funny. So I thought, hey, she should probably be the president. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, she's pro-weed. Like, that's something.
That's pretty key for
Something.
Leb's beliefs here.
Yeah, I believe. So, like, I don't know. These are pretty
To
easy.
quickly,
It's pretty easy to sway me in the presidential candidacy.
To quickly hotbox out on Andrew Yang, he would be the first Asian American president, so that's a pretty cool...
I'm sorry, did you say hot box instead of soapbox?
I did not.
Oh. All right, continue.
So he'd be the first Asian American president, and he would have, if he gets out of the Democratic Party as the candidate, he would have a pretty good shot of winning, because 10% of Trump voters said that they would change their vote for Andrew Yang, which is the highest of any Democratic candidate.
Max, what did you do right here?
Max, welcome to the
Yeah.
podcast.
Make sure he doesn't do something dumb.
Megan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Okay, goodbye. Sorry for that brief delay. My cat Max actually just walked in here.
Is that the evil cat?
He's very fat, but actually the other cat is fatter. This is the raccoon cat. He has raccoon blood in him. So we're gonna see.
I don't think our friend Pete would be a fan.
No, Pete. Actually, does Pete know he
Actually,
has raccoon
we
blood?
should probably have to bring him on the podcast and ask him about it some other
All right,
time.
we're gonna speak on guests in the future, but Pete will hopefully hop on the podcast at some point. But I think we've basically exhausted the political election. Maybe we'll speak on it in the future once more information's gathered. But yeah.
All right.
On to the next topic. Top 10 NFL running backs. So I'm going to get my list out here.
I'm also going to have to pull it up. Not that I don't have it memorized.
No, of course. So do you want to do this like one by one?
Yeah, I think we should go down the list.
Okay.
Should we go from 10 to 1?
You want to do it backwards? That's kind of a bold strategy.
That'd be bold. But I feel like our top few are going to be very similar.
But then you can kind of get through that and then get to the nitty gritty.
Okay,
you know?
all right, let's do it.
So let's go from 1. I have Saquon Barkley at number 1.
I also have Saquon Barkley.
He's just an
number 1.
elite running back. Like, he is on a shitty team, but like, have you seen his quads?
His quads are the most massive things I've ever seen in my life. I think he'd be able to crush a watermelon easily.
I mean, would it be hard to crush a watermelon?
Yeah, you crush it like...
Oh, between his quads? I thought you meant, like,
Yeah.
step on it.
No, I mean like between your quads.
I could not do that.
I think he could definitely do it.
No, I agree. So basically, because he can crush a watermelon with his quads, he's going to be our
He's
number
earned the
running
number
back,
one
yeah.
spot.
That's kind of the criteria for this list. Number 2, I think we might differ a little bit here from previous discussion, but I actually have Christian McCaffrey, running back of the Carolina Panthers.
See, this is where we will disagree because I have Ezekiel Elliott, running back of the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, explain your rationale.
Well, for Ezekiel Elliott, he has big play potential every play. He has anything a running back could possibly want, such as juking like a monster, hurdling people, stiff arms, and other incredible abilities that many good running backs can't even possess. And he has all of them. He does run behind a very good offensive line, and his stats have fallen off a bit, which cannot easily be explained. It seems like it's Jerry Jones testing out whether Dak is worth the paycheck or not. But I do believe Zeke should maintain his spot because he has the big playability. He's still good in the pass game, not quite as good as McCaffrey, but he's able to get it done, and he is a phenomenal player.
Okay. Now, as good as Zeke is, can I explain why you are incorrect on this one?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Christian McCaffrey has actually been significantly more productive on a significantly worse offensive line and team. He's had Kyle Allen as his quarterback most of the year, an absolute bum. And you said something about Zeke's big playability. How many 60-yard touchdowns has Christian McCaffrey had this year? It seems like every time I'm checking fantasy, he just breaks off a long touchdown. He's having I think he's either on pace for the first or second largest running back fantasy season of all time behind LaDainian Tomlinson's season, if any. And just for those reasons alone, really. Like, the eye test, sure, you could say Zeke looks a little better, so you can't really explain why McCaffrey's so good, but he's just producing at a higher level than anyone else right now. Any thoughts on that?
The only thing I would have to say to that is you do see it in fantasy a lot, but we're not talking about the number one fantasy player.
But
We're
wouldn't you
talking
agree that
about
stats matter?
the talented running backs.
Wouldn't you agree that stats matter, especially if he's running behind the worst offensive line of the two?
Well, stats mattering. Zeke still is running back 6 in fantasy football.
Mm-hmm. With the better offensive line, correct? You agree
Yes,
with
I
this?
agree. It's difficult.
So all the evidence suggests McCaffrey is better.
But all of the talent suggests Ezekiel Elliott.
You
is
could
still
argue
better.
that, sure.
Because you could make the same argument that Christian McCaffrey is number 1, but we both don't because we know
Okay, but-
Saquon is more talented.
No, because we know he can crush a watermelon with his quads.
That is also very true.
McCaffrey
That's
might
called
be able to
talent
do
right
this.
there.
That is talent, I agree. Okay.
That
But,
was a
I
good-
mean, you could say Saquon's worse because of his O-line, though. Zeke doesn't really have that excuse.
That's also another good point.
Okay, we can move on to number 3 here. So number 3, I have Dalvin Cook, running back of the Minnesota Vikings.
See, number 3, I have Christian McCaffrey, running back of the Carolina Panthers.
Okay, so clearly you have McCaffrey up there. So
I
it's not
understand
like
that
you dislike
McCaffrey is a
him.
premier talent.
Just,
is all.
just not the top 2 type of talent in your eyes.
Yeah, it's
fair
not-
enough. Fair enough.
It's just I don't know.
Fair enough. See you
Can't
around.
really-
So let me explain why Dalvin Cook is also still better than Zeke, as I have him ranked higher. So just statistically, and it's kind of the same argument, but he actually looks flashy. So Zeke and Dalvin Cook are my 2 fantasy running backs this year. What was that, Max? You want to fight?
Oh, I thought he was just giving insight on how he thinks.
Do you think he was agreeing with Dalvin Cook there, or was he upset about my
It
opinion?
sounds like he was mad about your opinion.
Max, who do you think number 3 running back is? Insightful. So Dalvin Cook, just eye test, he looks very flashy in comparison to Zeke. He's put up better numbers this year. And really, just for those reasons alone, he's behind the worst offensive line. I think he's just better than Zeke. What do you think?
I think that's a fair opinion. I have Dalvin Cook at number 4, just
Spoiler.
under Christian McCaffrey. And I think everything he's been doing this year has been a large step up.
Max, you have to pick a side. Do you want Cook at 3 or 4? It's 3, okay. There you go.
I don't know about that one, Chief. But he just hasn't been that game-changing talent as of late. He is also very injury-prone, which is very difficult to rank people because you never know if they're going to play a full season. He just got injured towards the end of the year.
Max was so upset by that take that he had to walk out of the room. Carry on.
He hasn't been putting up the numbers he has earlier in the season. He's starting to fall off a bit. I don't know. It seems like maybe it's all catching up to him.
Okay. I mean, injuries have played a factor in that, yes. He's had a few shoulder injuries.
It's tough to see how good a runner he really is when he's barely on the field.
It's reasonable. Okay, so number 4 we can just briefly say, because we've already talked about these players. I have Zeke at 4.
And I have Dalvin Cook.
So it's the same top 4 guys, really. Like, these are clearly the premier talents in the league. It's just based on preference at this point. Oh, I just realized I made a fatal mistake in my list. Okay, you can speak on your number 5 guy while I quickly fix this.
Well, I mean, the clear number 5 guy is Derrick Henry. The biggest man at running back in the league. He will run you over. He will stiff arm you for 99 yards down the field. He has potential to have 4 touchdowns in any game he plays. He is an absolute beast. Derrick Henry, number 5.
All right, so Derrick Henry's an absolute bum at the sport. He's just like this giant man that like somehow is like decently fast. So you got to give it to him. Like, he's a natural athletic freak. And this is what people said his whole career, but they made excuses for him, like the first few years of why he wasn't producing. But I guess he is doing pretty good now, so you got to give it to him. I wouldn't say he's a top 5 running back, but, you know, it's hard to argue at this point. His talent is there. At number 5, I would have Nicholas Chubb, running back of the Cleveland Browns. Just like, we were talking about big playability. No one really has it more than this guy. And he's also a consistent runner. You know, he does all the right things. He can catch out of the backfield in a pinch. It's not his ideal strong suit, but he does it all still.
It is a tough sell. I don't know if I can ever agree with Dalvin Cook being ahead of some of these other premier names. Not Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb. Of course Dalvin Cook.
So does Nick Chubb crack your list?
Nick Chubb, of course, does crack my
Okay.
list, but he's a little bit lower for me. Because
Fair
I would
enough.
say Derrick Henry is a better Nick Chubb.
I would say Nick Chubb is a better Derrick Henry.
Ooh.
Okay, moving on to number 6. I would go with Alvin Kamara, running back of the New Orleans Saints. Just, we're talking about doing it all. He might be, other than Christian McCaffrey, he might be the best pass-catching running back in the league. He's very elusive, very slippery, hard to bring down in the open field. You know, gets a big first down when he needs it. So for those reasons,
I have the exact same opinion because my number 6 running back is also Alvin Kamara. He's a little oiled up boy who never gets tackled.
he has to play with, like, just pre-game in the locker room. He goes, all right, Drew, just take the olive oil and just pour it on my skin. Just, rub it all over
I'm
me.
not as much of a fan as you were. I think he's a discount Christian McCaffrey for sure. And
yeah. Well, I mean, I have McCaffrey at 2.
I don't
higher ranked than you do.
I don't
so.
love the nose ring he's got, but
I think it's a look,
I don't think it's a good look. I think
but it is a look, of
he
course.
he looks like a I don't know. That loses some morale points for me.
It's
but
reasonable.
He stays at number 6. I think that's a fair point.
Okay.
Left.
Moving on to number 7. Who do you have at that spot?
I have New York Jets recently acquired running back Le'Veon Bell.
So initially when I heard this, I thought that was a little low, but then I formed my list, formulated it really well, and Le'Veon Bell came in at number 7 for me. So, you know.
I think it's just, we see what he's done like with the Steelers, and then he took a year off, came back to the Jets, but the Jets' offensive line is horrendously
Absolute
horrible.
dog shit. Just
And
awful.
With a year off, like
We are both
can't-
New York Jets fans, but they just have a dog shit offensive line.
You
There's
can't
no way
be too
around
mad
it.
at him for not getting stats this year. I think he'll pick it up
Yeah,
next
but
year.
at the same time, he's just put up awful numbers. You can't deny it.
But his talent is there.
His talent is, you can see
You know
it.
his talent's there.
You can see him like break off short runs where he should lose yardage just watching the game. So clearly he is still a talented
and
player. just
the
in a
both of
terrible
us watched
situation.
the most Jets games out of any games.
And fire Adam Gaze. Moving on. Number 8, I have running back of the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Jones.
Number 8, I have running back of the Cleveland Browns, Nick Chubb.
So Nick Chubb really fell off for you there.
Nick Chubb did not make my top 5, but
See, I understand because he doesn't look that flashy. but he breaks off long runs and he's also consistent. What more do you really want
No,
from him?
he is very talented. I think that's just the highest he can put him because everybody else brings like something phenomenal and he just brings something
I
very
think you're
good.
sleeping on his big playability, to be honest.
I think
he's
he's-
just constantly breaking
I think
off
he's very
70-yard
good.
touchdowns.
It's just for some reason the Browns don't want to run the offense through him and it's disconcerting. And they brought in Kareem
We all know
Hunt.
Freddie
It's
Kitchens doesn't know what the
disconcerting.
fuck he's doing.
He's the star, and yet they're not treating him as such. And I
Quick
think
side note,
that's
have you seen all this stuff about the Browns players going to the Cardinals sideline and asking to be traded to them?
all of them.
Last game. Like a bunch of them. Jarvis Landry included, one of your favorite players.
This is news to me. I did
So
not know
they-
about that.
So a couple weeks ago, Odell Beckham after the game spoke to a player and said, "Come get me." I think Jimmy Garoppolo of the 49ers suggesting he would like to be traded. And Jarvis Landry and a few other Browns did this on the Cardinals sideline, suggesting they all won out under this coaching staff. So it's interesting there. Looks like Cleveland hasn't really gotten any better after all.
This is interesting.
So let me speak on Aaron Jones real quick. Just, he disappears sometimes. He makes mistakes. That's why he can't be like a top 5 type player. But he is very flashy. He's always been very efficient, high yards per carry. He's got a lot. He's got in the end zone a lot this year. Statistically, he's had a great season. It's just hard to deny him at this point.
I would say it is not hard to deny him because I have him not ranked. And
I think you forgot
with
about him.
with Aaron Jones, it's just he's wide open down the field running a receiver route, which is like not of character. But Aaron Rodgers throws him the ball and it hits his hands and he completely drops.
That was a
it.
bad play. As I said,
He's-
he's not consistent.
He's full of dropped passes and he scores a lot, but I think it's just because of Matt LaFleur's system. I think he's good. I don't think he's top 10.
What do you think about his
talent.
efficiency though on the ground?
His efficiency is hard to discuss because I don't see why.
Let me get the exact
I think
numbers
it's
real
mainly
quick.
because Aaron Rodgers opens up the field so much with his arm that Aaron Jones is able to just sneak out. And
I think you sleep on his actual just natural ability as a runner.
I just don't see it. I don't see it as top 10. I definitely not higher than Nick Chubb.
So yeah, he's averaging 4.4 on the year. That's not amazing, but he has 14 touchdowns, which is pretty insane.
That is pretty insane.
That's 14 on the ground, so he might have some more in
I
the
believe
air.
it's less than Derrick Henry, though.
Is it?
I believe so.
Let me just check real quick on that one.
We want to be factually accurate on our top 5 running back rankings.
Derrick Henry unfortunately has 13 touchdowns to Aaron Jones' 14.
He's close. He's going to break it soon.
I could argue Aaron Jones is better than Derrick Henry.
I could
And
not.
which in fact I do, because coming in at number 9 is Derrick Henry, running back of the Tennessee Titans.
I
So
think
obviously I can't deny him completely. He
I
is
think
a
you're
good
definitely
player.
sleeping there, but coming in at my number 9 spot is Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals.
He didn't crack my list, I'll be honest.
My problem with everyone else not ranking him is that you've all forgot how good Joe Mixon really is. He's behind the worst offensive line in the league. The offense is completely inept. Andy Dalton can't throw. Whoever they brought in, Ryan Finley, couldn't throw. They have no identity. And finally, the past 3 weeks, we've seen that their identity is finally going to be Joe Mixon. He's been great in the past 3 weeks. And he really shows how much awareness as a runner he has and how much skill he has in the game.
You know what? You convinced me on this one. I'm going to knock Chris Carson out of my number 10 spot right now and throw Joe Mixon in. Sorry, Chris, you're just not good at the game. Joe Mixon's my number 10 running back now.
Chris Carson arguably may not touch my top 15 because of his fumbling issues.
That's fair. That's reasonable.
It's tough for me. And finally, my number 10, I have Josh Jacobs.
Just a small sample size for him, but he's been good. He's been tough, playing through a lot of injuries for sure.
He's a big, brutal runner, and he'll push people around. And
I'd
he's
like to
just
see a
the
little more
perfect
from him.
size, weight, everything. I just thought, I don't love Aaron Jones. I don't love Chris Carson.
So is this
He
almost a
fits.
filler pick for you?
It feels like a
you know he's not an elite running back yet, but
he's
like,
not elite.
in the
but he's-
future
he's
he has
very,
that potential.
He's very good. And
That's
I
a
think that
reasonable
puts him at
selection,
number
then.
10.
So that's going to conclude our top 10 NFL running backs. In the future, I'm sure we'll talk more football. But for now, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is... Actually, we have a quick ad read at this point. We would like to thank Weight Watchers for sponsoring this podcast. So after a lengthy oaf week, perhaps maybe you go to Wendy's for an oaf week, maybe quick check. The calories can really add up, and you have to watch out for that stuff. So this isn't a problem, though, thanks to the help of Weight Watchers. Now, they're going to give us a 20% off promo code if you use the code LEBFAG after you check out. Code LEBFAG for 20% off. Thanks, Weight Watchers. So,
Weight Watchers have been very generous to us since
First sponsor of the
our
podcast.
story of weight problems and the
Yeah.
Weight Watchers debacle. It's been
when we had to kidnap Pete
they've,
and
they've
bring
been
the
very
Weight Watchers,
they've been very generous.
he saved
with
his
us.
life.
So we really thank Weight Watchers for
They make me a little emotional. Thank you,
everything
Weight
they do.
Watchers.
So please use that promo code. It'll know that.
Code LEBFAG.
They'll-
LEBFAG LEBFAG at checkout.
Yeah, they really it really helps us out, and it shows that they should put ads on our stuff. So, yeah, if you want some of those Weight Watchers ice cream bars, pretty solid stuff.
Delicious.
All right, moving on.
The next topic is going to be religion.
Yes, religion, one of my favorite topics.
So, what are your religious beliefs?
So I would say, growing up, I was a Presbyterian, which is a sect of
Would you say that
Catholicism.
your nuclear family was traditional in that religion?
Yes, we were a traditional Presbyterian family.
Was it Protestant or Presbyterian?
No, Presbyterian.
Isn't that a form of Protestantism?
I don't believe so. It's under the spell of Catholicism.
Is it?
But they don't follow the rules quite as strictly.
So so
I don't really give stuff
it's
up.
like a
for
more
Lent.
loose Catholicism.
I don't really do much. We celebrate Christmas and like do fun stuff, but we don't do like boring stuff. Like I don't.
So
do
would you say
Ash
following
Wednesday.
this religion is an excuse to do all the fun stuff without the boring stuff?
I mean, kinda. As exampled in my life, I never really cared about the silly stories and the religious everythings, but I liked the group and the community that the church provided, and sometimes I would go to the youth groups back in middle school, and I don't know, it's a nice thing to have, just as like a backbone.
Makes sense.
Cute little religion in town. We're the church with the big steeple. Everyone thinks it's fake. It's kind of dope.
I actually went to preschool there. Quick shout out, First Press.
Wait, I also went to preschool there.
Yeah, we didn't have class together.
Oh,
Yeah, you had the shitty teachers.
damn.
Wait, didn't we have what's Miss Timpson as like a music teacher?
Yeah,
there?
that's
That was
what I
pretty- That was a
heard.
banger.
That was a banger.
So Miss Timpson actually followed me my entire musical career because so I had her in preschool and then she went to Jefferson School where I went to elementary school.
She also went to Washington School.
Did she?
Yeah, she
And then,
must have
and
been
then
too.
we
I think it was-
rendezvoused at the high school a few years later.
Yeah, we didn't have her in middle school though. Who was the music teacher in middle school?
Was there one? Was there whoever the course teacher was, I guess.
Regardless of that, I think we need to get back on track here. We were talking about
Wait,
religion.
no, I know this. Mrs. Leanhart, I think.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
That was one of them.
She also taught piano. Shout out to her. Shout out Miss Leanhart.
Okay, so back to religion. Why don't you discuss your beliefs?
So like, growing up family-wise, just as you, I'm not Presbyterian, but I grew up like Catholic. My parents were pretty religious, so we would go to church every Sunday. But like, I don't know. I don't know if it's for me, but like, I also don't know if like, not having any religion is for me either. But it's just hard to know like what to believe, you know, because like, any of it could be real, any of it could be fake. So somewhere in the middle, really.
No one really has all the answers.
Yeah, or really any of the answers.
So sometimes people find it nice to fall back on having a religion so that they can answer those questions in a way that they understand.
So here's one religion, because I actually took a comparative theology class last semester at college.
Very
So we learned
prestigious.
about many religions, varying from Buddhism to Hinduism to Islam to Christianity to Taoism. Just covered a lot of different religions. Shintoism,
And
Confucianism.
Taoism is stupid. So
Yeah,
if there's any Taoists
Christianity.
out there,
Judaism.
You're
Actually,
stupid.
Taoism is pretty interesting. Do you want to
the,
speak on
the
Taoism?
Tao of Pooh.
Yeah. It's just like, the main concept of it is that just like the energy in the world is ineffable. Like you can't understand it, so there's no point in fully comprehending it. But like by reading the readings, you can kind of get as good of an idea as you possibly could.
Yeah.
That's like a brief explanation of it. I know it's a little confusing.
Yeah, it's pretty
But here's a form of religion that I found particularly interesting. So you know kind of the backstory of Christianity where there's like the 4 Bibles, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John,
Yes.
generally. So it turns out there was a 5th hidden Bible that was like hidden deep in the past, and we rediscovered it because they buried it in this cave, and then they found it. The Gospel of Thomas, and it's a completely different form of Christianity. That was like, it's like a primary source, so this could be what it actually is, because there's a primary source to Jesus. It's called Gnostic Christianity, and the way it works is that the God people worship is actually the bad god. His name is Yaldabaoth. So what happened was in this material, so we're in the material realm, but like before the material realm ever existed, there was this realm with just like a bunch of demons, or like angel/demons. And so they had both like a dick and a vagina, right? So you could reproduce with yourself, but it was outlawed. Like you're not allowed to do that because like the baby would come out all fucked up. So then you had to like reproduce with other people. But then this one parent, I forget her name, but she broke the rules. I guess it's not a she or a he. They don't. They're gender neutral. So they broke the rules, and they had a kid by themselves, and the kid came out all fucked up, Yaldaba Oath, and then he was banished into the material realm where he formed humanity, and that's what we're trapped to this day. The only way to escape the realm is by following Jesus, who's supposed to be our savior, and then we can transcend over this realm into heaven. Thoughts on that?
So, my initial thoughts on that were, that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It actually kind of reminded me of the origin story of Scientology, which is a religion written by a science fiction writer, and their Bible is a science fiction novel. Keyword science fiction. But other than that, I think it was a nice little interesting story. It sounds like more of a fan fiction than a Bible.
I guess you can really say that about any religion, though. See, I think the reason this one sounds more ridiculous than the others is because it's not believed by many. But like, you could argue Christianity, like normal Christianity, is just as dumb. But like, it's just believed by half the world for some reason.
It's very fair that you can take any religion and give it the exact same treatment of that's fake and stupid.
Now, can I interest you in one more religion?
Yes, please.
Hinduism.
What about it?
I think this is the one. So the way Hinduism works.
Hinduism was one of the first.
And it still exists to this day. So the way it works is there's this reincarnation cycle, I believe, called samsara. So the way it works is you have to perform your dharma or your duty in order to reincarnate into like a better life. So you could start as like a fucking tree, and if you perform your dharma of just doing what trees are like supposed to do, then you could transcend into like a peasant human. And then if you do your role of like living a shitty life, farming and everything, then you can transcend your way up like the social rankings or whatever.
So like a dolphin?
Not. I mean, if a dolphin's your end goal, maybe. But it's more like you could become like a merchant and then eventually like a priest or a ruler.
Why would you want to be a priest?
Because a priest was considered high class.
But what about now?
Nowadays, I'm not sure.
What if I was born a bum, but then healthcare gets better, and then I end up being on welfare and I have a pretty fun life?
So then, yeah.
Would I be reincarnated again, or would that be the end?
Okay, so now let me explain the end of the cycle. So eventually, your goal is to achieve moksha, which is escape from the cycle. So let me give a quick, brief backstory. So before the world ever existed, all there was one called the Brahman. It was the one. It was everything that ever existed, kind of like the Big Bang.
Yeah.
And then it's separated into multiple Atman, which is like the souls of every living thing. So this Atman wants its own one sole goal is to become the Brahman again and form the one. But in order for that to happen, everybody needs to fulfill their dharma and achieve moksha and like escape the cycle. So for that to happen, you need to like live multiple reincarnations of performing your dharma and doing the right thing. And then by gathering good karma throughout all these lives, you can form one again.
Well, what if you gathered bad karma? Like, what about the reincarnation?
If you gather bad karma, then you reincarnate downwards into like a worse life.
Oh.
And then you don't escape the cycle.
That's interesting.
But you could argue that this was like trickery by the government, not really the government, but by the ruling class to like make you like, let's say you hate your life as a farmer and like you just don't want to do it, but like this is something to look forward to after you're out your life. But they can't really guarantee it because obviously no one actually knows what happens after you die. So this is kind of a way to brainwash people.
Yeah, it sounds a little manipulative. Once you get down
But if
to
it's
the
true,
bottom.
then I don't know.
It's true, that's pretty interesting. Doesn't seem to have any bearings. I wonder if I've been reincarnated before. What if I don't believe in Hinduism? Do I not have good karma and I never...
You don't have to believe it to have good karma. You just have to perform your duty. So if you perform your duty... If Hinduism is true, you have reincarnated before.
Oh.
It's just we don't know if you reincarnated up or down.
I
From where you
wonder
once
if I've
were.
ever been a tree.
You might have been a tree at one point.
What if there was a religion that you just, like, are nice to trees and you plant trees?
I feel like that is a thing.
Really?
I don't know. I didn't learn about
Team
it.
trees? Did you donate
I
to
think that's
Team
kind of like
Trees?
Shintoism, actually. I'm not sure, though.
Have you ever donated to Team
Have
Trees?
you?
I have not. Dante
Not
has.
easy. Did he?
Yeah, he
Actually, that doesn't
donated to
surprise
Team
me at
Trees.
all.
It was kind of
Shout out Mr. Beast.
Yeah, Mr. Beast. That was
It's a good thing to do.
There.
What was it, 20 million trees they wanted?
I think so.
Did they achieve the goal?
Maybe not. I haven't checked.
I think
it.
they got at least 10 mil.
They have like a lot.
Yeah. So, do you have any religions you want to speak on before the last topic?
See, I don't really know the intricacies of many other religions. I just know my own. I know, like, Judaism, but there's not much to say on all these well-known religions. They're all just kind of like, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I feel that. So, one more topic we're getting into, just labeled norm. Autistic or super genius?
Okay, well, I have some pretty good evidence because yesterday...
Just real quick, Norm is Leb's dog.
Yeah.
He's autistic.
Yesterday I woke up and I was sitting on the couch at like 5:30 in the afternoon, and Norman started humping his toy box again, which he does all the time. He'll go to his toy. He'll bring me a toy, and if I choose not to throw it to him because I'm playing Xbox, then he'll go back and he'll get his big basket of toys and like shake it all over the floor and dump them all out, and then he'll start humping his toy basket. And when I have friends over, he'll start humping my friends. And typically,
Especially gingers.
Typically, it goes in the order of ginger, and then blonde, and then anything. He'll
Which
just go
blondes
for
has he
anything.
humped?
He's humped Chubbles. He's humped Aaron. He humps girls. Girls are.
Yeah.
Big.
But also Spencer. I think Spencer's the number
Spencer.
one target.
I think Spencer may be the number
Just
one.
because the
target. No
so maybe
offense to
male gingers are preferred.
Spencer. Yeah, I have another male ginger friend from college named Steven. When he comes over, we'll see if
Yeah,
he
that'll be
gets
the real test.
Yeah, we tried it with Leah. It kind of worked, but we also kind of incented him. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
He did hump Leah though.
Yeah,
It happened.
he's kind of a rapist boy, but
Yeah, a bit of a rapey J. of
so
course.
I wouldn't say he's a super genius.
So you're saying he falls somewhere on the spectrum between autistic and super genius?
I would say he's average. I'd say he's very horny.
But like,
But
there's no
can
way he's
autistic
average
people be-
intelligence. I
Do
feel like it's one way or
autistic
the
people
other.
like have a sex drive? Are they like super horny?
I feel like they
Is
would
that a
be.
thing? I don't know. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, me neither. We're pretty ill-informed on the topic, to be honest.
I'm currently getting a call from Susquehanna, New Jersey.
Should we get them in on the podcast?
Should I answer it?
Get them on speakerphone.
Hello, you've called into the Almost Everything We Need podcast.
Somewhat close to
Okay.
everything we need podcast.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't. This is our first podcast. I'm still a
Mhm.
little. Well, they hung up on me immediately, so we almost had a caller.
I guess they didn't want to, if you want to call in and we happen to be recording the podcast at that exact moment, you can be a guest.
Yeah, no problem.
So, but the thing is, I don't think Norm is of normal intelligence because he just seems so dumb. He's so dumb that he's either smart or that he's dumb, right? You
mean,
agree that he's definitely not
For a
standard
dog, he
intelligence.
seems pretty smart because he'll come up to me and like put the toy right in my lap and then walk behind the couch and wait for me to throw it. Like he knows exactly the routine
I feel
every
like
time.
most dogs do that, though.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. He seems like
I guess the results are inconclusive here.
it's tough to tell. I don't know if I'd say he's autistic
Mm.
since he very much is sexually even without balls. He's just all about humping.
Yeah, you can get that out of him,
Kind of strange.
even after
if you ask
coming off
me.
his testicles.
I hope we can fix that one day.
Probably not, though. He's just a
Yeah.
horny kid, It is what it is.
So what do we think? What's the final verdict?
I would say Norm is a super genius.
Yeah, I guess I would have to agree. I mean, he was flying one day.
Mm.
Started floating around the house. It was kind of cool.
You probably should have mentioned that part.
Yeah,
earlier.
I didn't think that was really relevant. All right, let's.
It's
so,
a little relevant towards being.
So
a
what
super
is
genius.
that all we have for today, or do we have anything else?
That's the last actual topic, but we just want to briefly speak on the future of this podcast. So obviously this was the first episode, kind of a dry test run, but in the future we'd like to have guests. Now, what do you think about that?
Well, I've already spoken to Dante, and Dante has pretty much offered to be our first guest. So we're hoping to have him in on maybe episode 3, possibly even episode 2. We'll see how it goes.
Mhm. We have a few guests we haven't spoken to, but we hope we have some lined up here.
There's a few guests we were hoping to have on. Like I think we're gonna reach out to Evan pretty soon.
Mhm.
for
Love to get
his-
him on the podcast.
We'd love to get him on. We're gonna reach out to Pete. We may even reach out to Leah. I don't know. We're gonna see.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what you guys want to do. Dominique, if you want to come on, always welcome. I would say more names, but I don't want to call.
You know who you
everyone
are.
out.
If
Yeah,
you're listening to this
you know who
podcast,
you
you'll
are.
probably be offered as a guest.
Of course. If you ask to be offered as a guest, you will be taken on, and if you want to come on more than once, I mean, you can.
Then you could fuck off at that point. One is more than enough. Okay.
All right, so if anyone wants to come to the rave that we're gonna have on Matt's pool cover, that'll be on June 13th,
The
2020.
pool cover will actually be off on June 13th.
Oh.
So we could just have a pool party on June 13th. That works with me.
Okay, yeah. So June
And then we won't drown.
June 13th of 2020, you guys are invited to Matt's pool party. Everyone listening, even Hobo Dan, if he's listening. I hope
You're really
he's
going to
listening.
invite Hobo Dan?
I hope he's listening. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, rip Hobo Dan. I'm pretty
Maybe
sure
one
he's
day
dead.
we could have Tyler on the podcast.
I would love to have Tyler as
I
a
hope
guest
to
on this
have Tyler.
podcast. Hopefully we'll call some people out for boxing.
That would be cool.
Um,
Oh, we're also, if we're going to be doing any live events, there may be some boxing matches coming up. We might have the podcast just...
Wait, what if the podcast is a press conference?
Yeah, we have live
Oh,
commentary
yeah,
and we
this
record
could
the
work.
boxing matches. We'll see. We're going to expand as much as we can with our brand. Hopefully Weight Watchers is willing to expand with us. We're reaching out to other sponsors. We might have TJ
We're looking
Maxx
at you,
come
TJ
on.
Maxx.
Yeah. So,
Buffalo Wild Wings, too.
Buffalo Wild Wings.
Chick-fil-A.
I would love to have wings during a podcast. So
Oh.
if you guys want
If
to
you want to supply us
send
with
us some
free
wings.
we would love to eat them during
Feel
the
free.
podcast. So I think that about wraps up the first episode of the Somewhat Close to Everything We Need podcast.
It's somewhat close. We almost have everything we need.
somewhat close to there. So thanks for listening, and until next time.